Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Casil, and welcome to Robotics. I'm sorry that I'm not there this evening, but like all of you have experienced, this current adventure that we're on really complicates our home lives and our work lives. So I have a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old baby at home. And this is smack dab in the middle of bedtime when they really need a mommy. So, alas, like your students, you have to enjoy the virtual Mrs. Casil. Please, though, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions or concerns. I would be happy to arrange a one-on-one conference or conversation with any of you to answer any questions or learn how I can best support your student. So, um, like I said, my name is Jenny Casil. This is my 15th year teaching. I taught 8 years of physical science at Chinook Middle School before coming up here to North Thurston, where I've been teaching for the last 6 years, and this is my 7th year here. I teach AP Physics, STEM Physics, and Robotics. I also coach our after-school competitive FTC robotics teams. So that all looks really different this fall quarter, but that's okay. Together we're going to make it through and we're going to have a great year together. So I love working with teenagers. So believe it or not, I think they're fantastic human beings, and it's a great privilege to be part of this stage in their lives. So thank you for being in my class. Robotics is a really fun class. So it's an elective, which a lot of students are here for a wide variety of reasons. If we were in person, I would ask everybody to sort of say, wait, why are you taking this class? Is it because underwater basket weaving was unavailable, or because at some point somebody said you need something more than weight training on your schedule? Or are you planning on, interviewing with NASA for an internship this summer, in which case, please take me with you. So, all sorts of students take this class, and whether you have any experience with robotics at all, you can learn what we're doing in here and have some pretty impressive talents by the time we come out. So, let me give you a little tour of how our Canvas course is set up, as well as tell you a little bit more about what we'll be learning in this class. So, all right, computer, here we go. So, you've already seen this page because that's how you got to this link when you logged into Canvas. So this is what your students see when you log in. This is actually a real photo of my classroom. So when we finally get back to in-person school, this is where we will be sitting and working. Please ignore the dirty coffee cups. Please don't judge me for the state of my desk. On the homepage, the other thing that's there is a calendar for what we're doing each week. Robotics is scheduled for fifth period, so Tuesdays and Thursdays are when we meet. On Tuesdays is when we will, yes, have a live Google Meet. On Thursdays, we will not. There usually will be independent work students need to do. I do expect that students sign in and work during that class period because sometimes those assignments will require you to collaborate with your peers or respond to something in real time. So you should always expect to sit down and have some work to do during this fifth period time. The row above says asynchronous. This is the independent work that you can do really anytime. This week, since we're just getting started, it's pretty light, but often there'll be a lot of asynchronous work because this is the technology class. Even if we were in the building, we would have a lot of open deadlines for students to work through projects at their own pace. I'll always have assignments on each day for you as appropriate to suggest some pacing for your students. But for the most part, everything that we're going to do is going to be put together in a weekly module. So what begins on Monday will wrap up on Friday. And then, oh, I got to set the cat down. Cat was sitting on that. And what we begin, so each week will just sort of be a self-contained unit. Sometimes different modules will flow over into the next week, but for the most part, we'll try to sort of chunk things together like that. If you look at your navigation over here, I'll send a weekly announcement. This week it was mostly to make sure everybody got invited and included in our Google Meet, but in the future it'll be kind of giving you a preview of what's coming in the week, including the Google Meet access. And then over here, the next thing is this modules button. This is where all of the learning content for this course will be. Everything is organized by weeks, and assignments underneath that are organized in order so that you can see what you're expected to do, and in order that will help it make sense. So for example, this is week 2, assignment number 1, week 2, assignment number 2, etc. Right? So if we end up with lots of things during the week, I'll add other things to help divide up the information to help people pace it out. But this is the general idea for what learning content in our week will look like. Right? The only other things that are available in our navigation are grades, but please keep in mind that Skyward is your real grade. I'll update grades about once a week because we have so much flexibility in terms of when students are able to complete their work. It doesn't make sense for grades to get updated every day or even after every assignment due date because there's more students who are completing that in a flexible manner. Each assignment also is open for 2 weeks following its assigned due date. So if a student misses something, they have 2 weeks afterwards, in which case they can make it up. We will just move on. Right? There's also the syllabus here, which lists a little bit more about how the class is going to work. Right? So when we're in school, students will be working with the Lego EV3 robot, which can be programmed using a block language that comes with the Lego robot, or it can also be programmed in Java. So we have the opportunity for students to do both of those things, depending on what they're interested in. And when we get back in school, we'll really focus on the engineering aspect of this course. There'll be building challenges, there'll be problem-solving challenges, there'll be design challenges where how you construct your robot is just as important as how you code it to function. That being said, while we're doing this remote learning, it's in a lot of ways a perfect opportunity to focus on one of the core skills of our class, which is computer code. And to do that, we're going to use something called Coder Z. So you'll see your student on this site frequently because this is where our online simulated robots are located. This is a pretty slick platform, all right? So I'll go ahead and log in and show you around a little bit. It obviously looks a little bit different if you're a student, but actually I've gone through and I've completed quite a few of the lesson modules in here as well to find out if it was going to work or not. So there's 2 courses that your students can access in here. One, well, first, this Coder Z, they've got a bunch of things. They've got a very novice sort of elementary school level course that's about exploring the basic the core concepts behind programming. There's this Cyber Robotics 101. This actually uses a simulated robot that is our physical robots in the classroom. So the lessons that are in here actually can be copied and pasted and put into our robots at school. That being said, you'll notice it's a beginner course, and this is high school. We have an awful lot of students who completed a robotics elective in middle school. Not to mention, it's high school. You guys can push yourselves in here. So the 2 options, and there's 2 pathways your students get to choose. One is this Cyber Robotics 102, which is an intermediate level course, and one is Python Gym. I'll give you a brief little overview of each. So first you can see that there's these super cute little lessons like this. I get to control which ones are accessible to students at different points in time. So as I get acquainted with everyone, I'll be able to adjust that to give those of you who are ready to run as far and fast as you can, as much room to do that as possible, and also provide some structure for those of you who need more pacing or a more moderately paced approach. So in here, there are lessons that have slides, and yes, your students need to write things down as they go through things. So there's lessons in here that will help you learn the content that you need to know. And this is why the other reason why we're doing these 2 courses in Coder Z in particular, so they use a real life physics engine. So you try to drive your robot up a hill without enough momentum, and it might not make it all the way to the top. This is great because when we use our robots in the classroom, we often encounter the real life physics messing up our perfectly coded solution. So we'll be modeling a lot of what we experience in real robotics, and we'll also be able to do quite a bit of science instruction as we go through this. So yes, prepare yourselves to learn some physics. Then there's these simulated assignments that are in here. What I've heard from students is that this can take a long time to load if a Google Meet is running or if something else is running on the Chromebook. This is on my big computer, and even this takes a little while, as you see, to render the environment here. But there's a block-based programming structure, there's a simulated challenge over here, and there's hints and tips and tricks that help guide you through solving whatever problem this particular challenge is asking you to do. So um, you'll notice, for example, ooh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Your student will have to figure some things out, and there'll be some trial and error. They'll need to go back and look at what their code said or the previous lesson. But this very simple example is how we can use this coding language to make this simulated robot work, very similarly to what we will do in the real classroom. So the other course that's available for students is the Python Gym. Python is a coding language that you actually are using all the time. It's used in a lot of different web and mobile devices. And so this is actual coding language for students. So you'll see that these lessons have sort of built-in questions that guide students through what they need to do rather than slides or instructions. I'll be able to provide support for students as they go through these lessons too. But they have actual Python code here, and that's what they're writing in order to make this simulated robot do what is required. So this is for students who are ready to pursue this advanced challenge, and I'd encourage anybody interested to choose this pathway. So that's just a little bit about Coder Z, which we'll be using as our main robotics experience as we go through this fall. Oh, I've talked a lot. The last thing that I want to say is that we also have the opportunity to participate in the Coder Z Pro League, which is a competitive robotics competition where students are coding with Python and competing against local schools, statewide schools, up to national and even across the world, because it's a virtual coding challenge. There's an incredible scope for how far students can go. I feel like I've said scope a lot in this video. Sorry about that. So that's something that we'll talk more about in the coming weeks. And students who are interested in that opportunity, please don't hesitate to jump up and wave your arms in our next Zoom when we talk about it so that you can let me know. And that's going to be how we'll substitute Robotics Club, our competitive team right now. And then we will, once we resume in-person instruction, be able to resume our competitive after-school robotics club. So if you're interested in that at all, please reach out and let me know. Okay, at this point, I would be giving you a kit of Legos if we were there in person, and you would be tasked with, building something that can do a job, and your students would be going, see, not as easy as it looks, huh, Mom, huh, Dad? So, but I will leave off here. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions or concerns, and then I'll find a time that we can either arrange a conference together or at least exchange some emails so that I know how I can best support you and your student as we go on this wonderful adventure of remote learning together. Thank you for being in my class, and I look forward to spending this year with you.